Another week, another Twitter Files thread with more confirmation that of the bad faith of the Parag Agrawal and Vijaya Gadda regime. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. The second Twitter Files thread has finally dropped after a delay that included flushing out and firing Jim Baker as Deputy General Counsel at Twitter. This thread details a secret blacklist policy, its unwritten rules, who enforced it, and who fell victim to it. Tellingly, unlike the Hollywood blacklist of the 50s, those who enforced this blacklist never informed their targets. In fact, Twitter consistently denied that they targeted people for ideology, always insisting this or that person isn't promoting his account as he might, or this or that person violated the Twitter rules. All of which were other lies, as I told you before. The Agrawal, the Gadda, and Roth team made up rules as they went. This, then, is the origin of the verb to shadow ban. Franz Kafka, author of The Trial, Metamorphosis, and other noteworthy works, would no doubt have enjoyed putting this into a novel, except that we are the Yosef K's and the Gregor Samsas of this drama. Before we unpack this latest gift, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which quotes Ronald Reagan as saying, if fascism ever comes to America, it will come in the name of liberalism, which it has. And one more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can also like this video. You can even click on the bell icon and get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? Super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click there and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. All right. Ladies, settle in, ladies and gentlemen. This will be a long brief. Beginning at about 4:20 p.m. Pacific Time or 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time, Ms. Bari Weiss, founder and editor of The Free Press, link in the description, released her thread. 31 tweets in all, the first of which was a headline. I'm going to provide 16 of them in the description for you because, again, each tweet will embed with the one that came before it. Some of you might even get a display of the entire thread from any one of them. This is my best compromise in the interest of economy, but to make sure that you get the whole thing. And, as I did last week, I'm going to quote the text of these tweets in the form of an essay. Quote, Thread, the Twitter Files, Part 2, The Secret Blacklist. A new Twitter Files investigation reveals that teams of Twitter employees build blacklists, prevent disfavored tweets from trending, and actively limit the visibility of entire accounts or even trending topics, all in secret without informing users. Twitter once had a mission to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. Along the way, barriers nevertheless were erected. Take, for example, Stanford's Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and here she links to his account, who argued that lockdowns, including relating to the virus that shall remain nameless, what else, would harm children. Twitter secretly placed him on a trends blacklist, which prevented his tweets from trending. Stop right there. In the picture is worth 1,000 words department, Bari Weiss embeds a screen cap of what looks like a moderational console. It shows flags reading active, recent abuse strike, trends blacklist, and strike count 0, which seems to contradict that statement about a recent strike. Several of these tweets will have this kind of illustration. Now, moving on. Or consider the popular right-wing talk show host Dan Bongino, linked to his account, who at one point was slapped with a search blacklist. Twitter set the account of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, the link to his account, to do not amplify. Stop again. Those last two statements each have an illustration, similar to that for Dr. Bhattacharya. If any of you out there have seen anything like that screen cap, leave a comment. I doubt you would have, for reasons that will become clear. And when I say link to the account, I mean that Barry Weiss linked to the other account in her tweet. Moving on. Twitter denied that it does such things. In 2018, Twitter's Vijaya Gadde, then head of legal policy and trust, and Kayvon Begpour, head of product, said, "We do not shadow ban." They added, "and we certainly don't shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology." What many people call shadow banning, Twitter executives and employees call visibility filtering, or VF. Multiple high-level sources confirmed its meaning. Think about visibility filtering as being a way for us to suppress what people see to different levels. It's a very powerful tool, one senior Twitter employee told us. VF refers to Twitter's control over user visibility. It used VF to block searches of individual users, to limit the scope of particular tweets' discoverability, to block select users' posts from ever appearing on the trending page, and from inclusion in hashtag searches, all without users' knowledge. We control visibility quite a bit, and we control the amplification of your content quite a bit, and normal people do not know how much we do, one Twitter engineer told us. Two additional Twitter employees confirmed. The group that decided whether to limit the reach of certain users was the Strategic Response Team Global Escalation Team, or CERT-GET. It often handled up to 200 cases a day. But there existed a level beyond official ticketing, beyond the rank and file moderators following the company's policy on paper. That is the Site Integrity Policy Escalation Support, known as SIPPES. This secret group included the head of legal policy and trust, Vijaya Gadde, the global head of trust and safety, Yoel Roth, subsequent CEOs Jack Dorsey and Parag Agrawal, and others. This is where the biggest, most politically sensitive decisions got made. Think high follower account controversial, another Twitter employee told us. For these, there would be no ticket or anything. Again, stop. Remember Matt Taibbi saying that Jack Dorsey was out of the loop? Well, that's no longer tenable, unless anyone shares minutes of a SIPPES meeting that either do not list him as present or list him as absent. But I do know that Parag Agrawal was all in on censorship. He said so, and has never denied it. These days, however, he has been keeping his head down. Moving on. One of the accounts that rose to this level of scrutiny was Libs of TikTok, an account that was on the Trends Blacklist and was designated as "Do not take action on user without consulting with SIPPES." Again, with an illustration that clearly shows last access 12/7/22. The account, which Chaya Raichik began in November 2020 and now boasts over 1.4 million followers, was subjected to 6 suspensions in 2022 alone. Raichik says each time Raichik was blocked from posting for as long as a week. Twitter repeatedly informed Raichik that she had been suspended for violating Twitter's policy against hateful conduct. But in an internal SIPPES memo from October 2022, after her 7th suspension, the committee acknowledged that LTT has not directly engaged in behavior violative of the hateful conduct policy. See here, and here is an illustration with an image of text describing this site policy recommendation. It reads, quote, "Site policy recommends placing Libs of TikTok in a 7-day timeout at the account level, meaning not for a specific tweet, based on the account's continued pattern of indirectly violating Twitter's hateful conduct policy by tweeting content that either leads to or intends to incite harassment against individuals and institutions that support alternative lifestyle communities. At this time, site policy has not found explicitly violative tweets, which would result in a permanent suspension of the account. This type of enforcement action, meaning repeated 7-day timeouts at the account level, will not lead to permanent suspension. However, should LTT engage in any other direct tweet level violations of any of the site policies, we will move forward with permanent suspension. Since its most recent timeout, while LTT has not directly engaged in behavior violative of the hateful conduct policy, the user has continued targeting individuals / allies / supporters of the alternative lifestyle community for alleged misconduct. The targeting of at least one of these institutions, and there the image of text cuts off. Barry Weiss continues, quote, "The committee justified her suspensions internally by claiming her posts encourage online harassment of hospitals and medical providers by insinuating that gender-affirming healthcare is equivalent to child abuse or grooming. Compare this to what happened when Rychik herself was doxxed on November 21st, 2022. A photo of her home with her address was posted in a tweet that has garnered more than 10,000 likes. When Rychik told Twitter that her address had been disseminated, she says Twitter support responded with this message: "We reviewed the reported content and didn't find it to be in violation of the Twitter rules. No action was taken. The doxing tweet is still up." Stop again. In case you don't know what she's talking about, to dox, spelled D-O-X-X, means to share personal information about someone without that person's consent. Elon has more work to do, and I will share with you that he did take note of it only yesterday. But as you can see, one of Chaya Rychik's enemies, perhaps knowing that a new sheriff has ridden into town, has taken his or her enmity to a new level. Elon will have to hire a new trust and safety team, this time following an even-handed policy. I'll have more to say about institutional inertia, for lack of a better term, later. But to whoever left that tweet, and I'm sure none of you expect Barry Weiss or me to link to it, I say, I hope you realize that if anything happens to Chaya Rychik or anyone else living in that house, her nearest surviving relative, if not the local prosecuting attorney, could and likely will sue or prosecute you in a court of law. True, I am neither lawyer nor law enforcement officer, but I urge you to check with a lawyer at least. And if he's worth his salt, he'll tell you to do the obvious thing. As I'm telling you now, this is serious business. And remember, even Andrew Torba at Gab, free speech advocate that he is, would never allow that kind of post on his platform. And he says so. Now, before I go back to Barry Weiss' thread, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Now, whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit OurSilverlines.com. Learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Now, let's get back to Barry Weiss' thread. Quote, in internal Slack messages, Twitter employees spoke of using technicalities to restrict the visibility of tweets and subjects. Here's Yoel Roth, Twitter's then global head of trust and safety, in a direct message to a colleague in early 2021. Quote, a lot of times SI, I guess that means site integrity, has used technicality spam enforcements as a way to solve a problem created by safety under enforcing their policies, which again isn't a problem per se, but it keeps us from addressing the root causes of the issue, which is that our safety policies need some attention, unquote Yoel Roth. 6 days later, in a direct message with an employee on the health misinformation policy and identity research team, Roth requested more research to support expanding non-removal policy interventions like disabling engagements and de-amplification / visibility filtering. Roth wrote, quote, the hypothesis underlying much of what we've implemented is that if exposure to, for example, misinformation directly causes harm, we should use remediations that reduce exposure, and limiting the spread or virality of content is a good way to do that. We got Jack on board with implementing this for civic integrity in the near term, but we're going to need to make a more robust case to get this into our repertoire of policy remediations, especially for other policy domains, close quote. And stop. Did you catch that? We got Jack on board. Jack Dorsey, hear me. You have some explaining to do. Is this why you tried to urge Elon to dump everything at once so that Elon, Barry, and Matt would miss that last sentence? If you want to clarify, leave a comment, taking care not to make me bowdlerize it. And I'm sure you know what the verb to bowdlerize means. Barry Weiss concludes, quote, there is more to come on this story, which was reported by Abigail Schreier, Michael Schellenberger, Nellie Bowles, Isaac Grafstein, and the team at the Free Press. Keep up with this unfolding story here and at our brand new website, which again I've linked in the description. The authors have broad and expanding access to Twitter files. The only condition we agreed to was that the material would first be published on Twitter. We're just getting started on our reporting. Documents cannot tell the whole story here. A big thank you to everyone who has spoken to us so far. If you are a current or former Twitter employee, we'd love to hear from you. Please write to tips@thefff.com. Watch Matt Taibbi for the next installment, unquote Barry Weiss. And let me also say, if you're a Twitter employee or other witness, leave a comment with me. Now, I have more to say about Yoel Roth. Matt Taibbi quoted this same Yoel Roth as referring to actual National Socialists in the Trump White House. Yesterday, the newsletter News House directly criticized Roth and his open advocacy of censorship. Roth has also come in for direct criticism on Twitter itself, now that Elon Musk has apparently destroyed his regime. Now, I'm going to quote from a tweet from a user calling himself MA_RTIN, describing himself as a sensible centrist. I'm not going to link to the tweet because it is in reply to another tweet he left that I will not even quote. You can't merely bowdlerize that statement. I'll just leave you with this quote. This was the guy who, 10 years ago, Republican pundits were saying would get a taste of the real world and be shocked back to reality when he got out of college. Instead, he banned the president from Twitter because he hated conservatives and white people, unquote Merton, or however you pronounce his name. That tweet is dated December 3rd, 2022 at 12:21 a.m. Eastern Time. All of which to say that this user, whoever he is, decided that Yoel Roth was not fit for the office he held. Jordan Peterson said something somewhat more family friendly. I will link to his tweet in the description. He says, quote, "The ex-safety chief and censor of Twitter is absolutely everything you dream he'd be. Your Roth is another appalling creation of modern higher ed," unquote, Jordan Peterson, who quotes a tweet from Christopher Rufo, whom I've mentioned before on this channel in connection with the Walt Disney Company having the same or similar problem. Christopher Rufo said of Roth, quote, "Dude's research background is wild," unquote, Christopher Rufo. And again, this part of this man's curriculum vitae is the kind of thing you do not want to read on an empty stomach. Follow the tweet link if you must, but be careful before you blow up the image. And do not, I repeat, do not let small children see it. All that to provide context for one other thing that Newshouse article quoted Roth is actually saying, namely, that any criticism of gender switchers threatens their lives. Believe it or not. So, how has the Twitter community received this thread? With responses varying from outrage, to I told you so, to ho-hum, to oh, so it's that again, to that's a lie, to that they had every right to do it, to you or they deserve what you or they got, to it's happened to leftists too. I've left a link in the description to a tweet containing an exchange in the you deserve it category. Someone says, quote, "If you're promoting false info about the virus that shall remain nameless, you should be blacklisted. It's utilitarian healthcare and for the good of all," close quote. Then another user, right back at him, says, Spalderice, quote, "So pretty much everyone in the CDC, the WHO, and I don't mean the singing group, and most of the government officials in the last 3 years should be blacklisted. Because just about every one of them lied and misled the public on at least one occasion and should have known better at the time they made their false and misleading statements," close quote. And remember, Twitter quietly rescinded and literally deleted its virus that shall remain nameless misleading information policy. Now that Twitter is reinstating many more accounts, including Laura Loomer, those accounts will not be subject to that policy. Yes, I said that Laura Loomer is back on Twitter. I've left a link in the description to her account. Follow the link. And instead of account suspended, you'll see her bio and her tweets. Nor has Elon Musk been lacking in attention. I have links in the description to 5 tweets from him addressing various concerns. First up, he promised to update a user's account status, any user's account status display, to tell a user when such moderational action has been taken and give him a chance to appeal it. Now, why might Twitter still have to blacklist someone? He's going to have to explain that in detail later. Moving on. In the second tweet, he shared an image of text of Vijaya Gadde saying that Twitter serves the public conversation and that favoring one specific ideology or belief goes against everything we stand for, which we all know is a bald-faced lie. In the third tweet, he shares some of Yoel Roth's worst excesses going back to 2017. Talking about actual National Socialists in the White House. In the fourth tweet, he gives assurances to a user named Amanda Milius, who asked whether the law firm of Perkins Coie, who employed Michael Sussman, is still Twitter's outside counsel. Says Elon, quote, "Twitter doesn't use Perkins Coie. No company should use them until they make amends for Sussman's attempt to corrupt a presidential election," unquote, Elon Musk. And remember, I mentioned Sussman in connection with Jim Baker 2 days ago. And last, and possibly most important, Elon notes Libs of TikTok's concern about its account status with a repeat of the moderational console with that do not take action warning. Elon says, looking into it. And when Elon Musk says he's looking into something, you can believe him. Not everyone does. I make no bones about that. People want to know why any part of the censorship regime will stay in place. Why, for instance, does Elon Musk still refer to hate speech? what exactly will constitute it moving forward. And why not disable these moderational tools now, today, this instant? I have a link in the description to an exchange calling for simplicity and transparency of moderation. Now, you've heard me talk about Andrew Torba's Gab.com as the platform with the simplest and most transparent content standards out there. You have heard me suggest that Elon follow Andrew Torba's example. So what is Andrew Torba saying in reaction to this latest thread? Over on Telegram, he says, quote, Elon is dropping the Twitter files out one side of his mouth while bragging about how much they have shadow banned hate speech out the other. Centrist moderates are unprincipled losers who cannot be trusted, unquote, Andrew Torba. I've already said that Andrew Torba defines hate speech as anything that violates U.S. federal or state law. Torba also boasted of new tools for Gab users that can detect shadow banning elsewhere. And legitimately, he has said words to the effect, you heard it from me first. 3.5 years ago, he says, and he's right. Now, that being said, Torba has a business reason to refuse to give Elon Musk any credit. He is not Kris Kringle and Miracle on 34th Street sending customers to other stores. He and Elon are now after many of the same customers, and the competition is going to get nasty. Leaving that aside, perhaps the other skeptics should remember, Twitter is like a battleship, and it cannot steer on a dime the way a PT boat can. The changes at Twitter are still an improvement, whether they represent perfection or not. Banned accounts are coming back, and the Twitter files releases are far from ended. Link in the description to the article, to the website for the Free Press, to the 16 tweets from Barry Weiss thread, to Jordan Peterson's tweet, to that You Deserved It tweet and the reply to it, all in one, to Laura Loomer's account, to Elon Musk's 5 replies, to the tweet from a skeptic, to my Declaration of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursewerlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and a link to my Twitter War playlist, to Dr. Steve Turley's more than an hour stream about the Twitter Files 2 thread, and a video from another user saying, now we know that Twitter was lying about not having banned libs of TikTok. This is Terry Aho delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.